So it is we do welcome now in his, I believe, 10th year as a Coptic minister and physician's assistant, former owner of the Healing Center in Lakeview, which he's still actively part of, him and Barb. We do welcome Bob Huttinga as our presenter tonight. Very enlightening topic, and I guess that's a good enough intro.
So this was supposed to be a workshop, but not really. It's going to be a play shop. So, who are you? Say your name to yourself. Close your eyes for a moment. Just say your name. That's who you are. And as we know from John's work in numerology, that name has meaning. And you can open your eyes again. But what identifies you? Who are you? Well, a lot of people identify themselves as a profession. So I've been a physician assistant for years. But that's not really who I am, but I frequently identify myself by that profession. Many of us are parents. Some of us are sons. Some of us are daughters, grandparents. Sometimes we identify ourselves by our body size and shape. Tall, short, thin, fat. These are all identifiers. We are actually an expression of our genes. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later. Maybe we identify ourselves as a healthy person or a sick person. I hear people all the time say, I was a sick child. Well, those are ways that we identify ourselves. We have a physical body, and we are a spiritual being. We might be a golfer, like John, or we might be a duffer. These are ways that we... Well, John used to be a golfer. Okay. We may be a leader or a follower. And you know what? These things, it really doesn't matter. There's no judgment. It's just how we identify ourselves. We may be a producer. We may be a drifter. We may be physically sensitive or psychically sensitive. And some people are actually both. We may be religious or spiritual. And those are quite different. And I think most people here understand that. We may identify ourselves as a healer or a traveler, both physically a traveler or psychic traveler. A dreamer, creator. Are there any creators here? We actually all are creators. But it's really our consciousness. That is who we are. So, again, I want you to close your eyes for a moment and just say these words. I am. And just say them to yourself several times. I am. I am. And when you do this, you become aware. This inner awareness of being. Now, we often hear this saying, I am that I am. But I want to change that up a little bit. I am that. So all of these things I've talked about before are ways of identifying ourselves. I am that, comma, I am. And so this is our inner awareness of being. This is that part of us that powers up the whole system, that keeps our physical body going. You can open your eyes if you like. Or maybe you want to just keep them closed. So this awareness of being is who you are. It is what keeps our physical body going. It is that part of us that communicates with others at a physical and spiritual level. And we are like a computer. We have hardware, that's the body, and then we have this operating system. That's our spiritual part. And these two things determine how we're going to experience our lives. The screen is what we experience. The software, the operating system, create what's on the screen. So to have life in this time and this space, you actually have to have both. You can't just be a physical body. You can't be just a spirit. If you're just a spiritual being, you wouldn't have a body, you would have passed on. So we live in these two worlds, the physical world of our body and the spiritual world of our minds. Now, most of the time, our bodies function on automatic. And so if we want to change something about ourselves, we actually have to consciously make that happen. We are so used to running on automatic. And where do these automatic thoughts come from? Well, they come from our previous experiences. So if you've had a good experience, you want to continue to do that. If you've had a negative experience, we're conditioned to try to avoid that. So we want to enjoy pleasure and avoid pain. Now, these experiences are both physical and spiritual. Physical, they're very reactive and automatic. We're programmed physically by our genes. And if you're interested in this topic, there's a very good book called The Selfish Gene by Richard Dawkins. It was written about 25 years ago, and last year he rewrote it. And so if you buy a new copy, you get the old version and then the new version, his new thoughts after 25 years of experience in life. And it's very fascinating. And one of the things he brings up is that if you have bad genes, your genes actually try to get rid of you, because we're programmed to keep the gene pool clean. So if you got a gene that's, if it's passed on, is going to be detrimental to the species, your genes might try to get rid of you. So, interesting thing to think about. So, the selfish gene, Richard Dawkins. And then we're programmed by our filters. These are our past experiences, our memories of our growing up years, our nationality, our logic, our profession, our gender, our spiritual and religious concepts, things that we were raised with. Now, spiritually, we're here in this physical incarnation so that the spiritual part of us can experience life through our 5 physical senses. And before we actually incarnated into the physical body, we decided ahead of time what we were going to experience. And this probably was a joint venture with the people in your life, your family, your friends. Is my belief that we got together in a little pre-birth conference and decided what this was going to be like. And I like to call that a birth vision. Now, where are we going? Where are you going? Well, the physical body is going to die. Now, when? Maybe tomorrow, maybe 50 years from now. We don't really know for sure, although I believe that at some point we condition ourselves, we prepare ourselves, and we actually know at some level when that's going to be. One of my mentors was Jose Silva, and his theory was that we should die at the age of 98 in perfect health, simply because we choose to. Now, he didn't quite make that. He died in his early 90s. But what was interesting is that 3 days before he passed, he gathered all his family together, and they had a big meeting, and he told everybody he wanted them to do when he passed, and then 3 days later he passed. And he was not ill. He didn't have any illness. He just chose to leave. And that's what we should do. We shouldn't have extended illnesses and painful experiences around that. We should simply decide to leave. Our physical mechanism and our genetics are actually programmed for us to live to be 200 to 300 years of age. But we're currently conditioned by our culture, by our belief systems, that we're going to pass somewhere between 70 and 100 years of age. Some people die young because the spirit decides to exit. And some of these early deaths, children, things like that, I believe these spirits come in because those parents need some lessons to learn. Maybe they change their mind. Maybe that spirit incarnates into a body and decides, I don't care to be a Amish kid. I'm going to get out of here and exit early. Well, these are kind of controversial thoughts, but these are things that I believe to be true. Some have very strong survival genetics and live fully until they're 100. Barb goes to a dance class, and there's a lady there that's, how old? 99, dances just like everybody else that's there. Now, some of us abuse our bodies at a young age, and that causes serious physical conditions that then cause us to have significant physical limitations. But if you come into this incarnation planning to live to be 100 or 150 or whatever, you're going to make the choices as you go through your life to avoid those abuses so that you can get to that point. Now, the purpose of each person's incarnation is different. So maybe you come here for a vacation. We've had many lifetimes, and sometimes we just decide that, hey, this is not going to be some big school. I'm just going to come here to travel and have fun. But some people come to learn lessons, and so they have lots of trials and tribulations and lessons that they have to learn. Some come to influence other people in the direction of our planetary experience. So those people become the leaders, the writers, musicians, filmmakers, government officials, etc. And some people never find this connection between their physical life and their birth vision, and so they often struggle through their whole experience. Many people do find it early, and they end up having a very purpose-driven life. And so I see lots of people who know exactly what they're supposed to do throughout their whole lives, and many people wander kind of aimlessly through their life. So what is your purpose? Why are you here? I often asked myself that when I was younger. And one of my mentors said one time, your purpose is what you say it is. And it was a very important answer for me, because then I knew, okay, so I'm going to do this. This is going to be my purpose. But it isn't your purpose for your whole life. That purpose changes. So as you go through different aspects of your life, your purpose changes. So where are you going? Well, where you're going depends on your open-mindedness, on your spiritual attunement. It depends on your physical body, what's happened to that as you've lived so far. But you're born with this birth vision, and then you have free will throughout your entire life to figure out how you're going to make that happen. So your goals, your desires, your dreams, those are the things that guide you. Your bucket list guides you. The last time I was here, I asked if anybody had a bucket list. Since I was here, did anybody make a bucket list? Well, there you go. This bucket list is a really, really important thing. And you should have anywhere from 100 to 500 things on your bucket list. Now, we think of a bucket list as, well, someday I want to go to Scotland. That's a good thing. But this can be simple things like, I want to go to an opera. If you've never been to an opera, you should put it on your bucket list. It's an interesting experience. Now, you might not become a devotee of the opera, but just going to one would be a good experience. What do you desire to do? That is in your hands. It's in your thoughts. It's in your mind. You're the one that has to plan these things. So what you have to ask yourself is, do you like your life the way it is at the present time? If you don't, then you need to change it. So how do you do that? Well, you find a purpose and you say, this is my purpose at this time. Now, it might only last for a few weeks or a few months or a few years, and then you move to something different because you've educated yourself. So follow your intuitive guidance, and then you study and you read and learn and listen, and that following that purpose then guide you to the next step. So you follow that intuitive GPS. Now you have to make sure your GPS is programmed correctly. Some years ago, we bought a car from a guy that had lived in Florida, and the GPS worked just fine. We were in New York City, and we're coming back. We got on the Pennsylvania Turnpike, and every exit, the GPS said to get off. Get off. And I'm thinking, no, we don't want to get off here. So I got looking at how the GPS was programmed, and it was programmed to avoid tollways. So that's like our life. It's like our intuitive GPS. If it is not programmed correctly, then you're not going to get the right guidance. So it's important if things keep happening to you, there's probably something wrong with that guidance system. So you need to figure that out. Now, this is an interesting topic. I think that's important that we plan our next incarnation. And a lot of people don't even think about this. But if we have struggled through this life, maybe next time we want to just have a vacation. Or maybe we haven't quite been fulfilled in this life. So let's plan the next one. And the way to do that is simply vividly imagine something that you really, really desire to do. Maybe in this life you've been unable to do something. Maybe you wanted to be a ballerina, but now you got bad feet and your knees are broken and things like that. So that would be something that you would vividly imagine. No comment, Bev. So that would be something that you would vividly imagine that you were doing and had already done for a period of time. And what would happen then is that imagery gets carried forward into your next birth vision, and it becomes part of your next lifetime. And you become a protege then because you've learned, or a prodigy, because you've learned how to match that birth vision much earlier. So, something to think about. Now, also as you do this, your next lifetime can be in the future, or your next lifetime can be in your past. So sometimes we have things in the past that we would like to fix, and so we can actually go back in our next incarnation into our past to fix those things. You can also do that in your imagination, and you can do it with hypnosis, where you go back into your past and alter things. And there's some people, and I am one of them, that believe that we can alter our genes by doing that kind of mental reprogramming. Bruce Lipton introduced us to the science of epigenetics, and there's some very good evidence that people have been able to change their genetics. Cryon talks about youthing instead of aging. We almost all in this room think about aging. Anybody think about youthing? We have to do that. We can do that. So it's important to understand that you're able to correct this lifetime if you choose. Now you can do that mentally, or you can do that through your next incarnation. Maggie?
Well, I was thinking about youthing, and I'd like to youth. But when I was in my youth, we played marbles all the time, but now I've lost them.
You and Peter Pan, huh? So, in conclusion, I want you to close your eyes again. And just say those words to yourself. I am that, comma, pause, I am. And you put something in that area, I am that. Something that you desire to be in the future, or something that you are already doing that you really enjoy. And then think about your purpose. What are you here for? And if you think you've fulfilled your purpose and now you're just aimlessly drifting, you're not. You need a new purpose. Everybody needs a purpose. And where are you going in this future of this lifetime? Or what are you going to be doing in your next incarnation? And if parts of your life are not working, your career or your retirement, your relationships, recreation, money, health, you can fix these things. But you're the one that has to make the changes. And someone famous once said, you must be the change that you desire to experience. And this is absolutely true. When you become that person in your mind, then you will do and have the experiences that are consistent with that thinking. So remember, I am that. That I am. Thank you.
Thank you.